Hello, my name's Tim Hickson. I currently teach at Mentor Christian School, 7th through 12th grade math, as well as an 11th and 12th grade computer apps class. And that is actually the class that I developed this module for. The overall topic of the unit is hardware, computer hardware, and the lesson that I specifically designed is one in which students were to, I called it the Build Your Own PC unit, because the students had to learn about hardware and then use that knowledge that we've learned to then in this part of the unit actually shop online, keep track of purchases with an imaginary budget, kind of a budget simulation for building their own computer. They had to get all of the different components that were necessary, have a particular purpose, and so forth. I'll explain more of that later on. Like I said, this is an 11th and 12th grade class. There were 13 students in our 11th and 12th grades combined. Most of the students I've had for a number of years in math classes, so I have a good idea of their academic abilities overall. And it being a small school, I know pretty much how well they do in other classes as well. Most of them come from a pretty middle class background, some lower middle class, some are a little bit on the upper middle class end, but most of the families, most of the students come from solid families with good parent support, and that, so that is helpful. Now, as far as the need that I saw for this assignment, I really felt like there was a need for students to have the confidence to be able to assemble and purchase parts to upgrade their own computers. I'll click on the concept map here so we can see this, the basic idea. But we did before this in our class a unit on actual construction. I had some old computers that they got to take apart and put back together. But for this unit, they were then going to find the parts that they would actually put into their computers. My main goal is that students will shop for and select compatible hardware to build their own system within a set budget. And then they had a number of different tasks, determining the purpose of the system, shopping online, constructing a spreadsheet of the cost, so we did integrate a little of Microsoft Excel, and then they used PowerPoint to make a presentation and actually did present this in class using a smartboard. And then they also, we used an online discussion forum here in our Moodle site where they could critique each other's systems, maybe ask questions about it or suggest certain things. And the students seemed to enjoy that. Now, overall, I'll take you to the actual unit. This is a Moodle site I constructed for our class. What the students actually got was another Moodle site. I'll take you to that. And you see here's our Build Your Own PC. We had a motivational exercise. And then I outlined for them the different tasks that they had. I gave them some articles to read, and they could choose from one of these 3 applications. I gave them a system checklist to make sure that they knew exactly what things went into a system in case they had forgotten. And then this is actually notes from the previous section we did on a general overview of hardware components, where we did outline some different compatibility issues and whatnot. So I gave them an $800 budget. They had to go shopping on Tiger Direct or microcenter.com or Newegg or any other online retailer. And then they had to compile their costs, again with a spreadsheet, prepare a presentation using some design principles that we had gone over earlier in the year, and then give the presentation in class. And then here's where they had a discussion forum to present their idea to their ideas about each other's computers. Now, the formative evaluations that I gave were actually really interesting. I did that with a Google form and was able to compile the information pretty easily with that. But I learned a lot about some of the remediation that I needed to do. For instance, some of the students in the previous units didn't pick up on some of the compatibility issues as much as they could have. And so that's something that I need to maybe assess more before we get into this unit. And I think next time, when I do this again in the future, one of the issues that came up actually had to do with the 3 types of computers that they chose and the budget. Because I didn't require them to get software other than an operating system, they actually had a lot of money. $800 is a lot of money to build your own computer with, and particularly for the school or business application. So one thing that I determined that I would do is in the future maybe bump that budget down to about $500 for those doing the school or business computer, and for the photo or video editing or the gaming computers, bump it down to just about $700. And what that would do is that would force the students to really shop around and compare prices and try to get the most for their money. Whereas, as one of the students put it, a lot of the computers ended up being about the same, because the students building the school or business ones had plenty of money left over, so they just souped up their computers. And they ended up being very similar to the other 2 types. So that's something I do differently as I progress through this process. I have done this project in the past, but this it did change quite a bit. It was a lot more concrete by using this the ADDIE method, and I felt like the ADDIE method really helped me take some of the stuff that I would often give the students just kind of with announcements or in class, and it kind of forced me to really get this down in writing, really focus my goals, and to really get things into a much more concrete state that students could understand better, and was, I believe, more beneficial for students than it ever has been. So thank you for listening and evaluating my project.